Normally, the way that this goes, this is a live class session or in person, each one of these projects comes with music, and I introduce you guys to the idea of bardcore. I'd never heard of bardcore before in my life. A student previously introduced me to it, and it is modern songs like Taylor Swift, or they even do like some 90s like rap hits within the version of bard music that you would hear in a tavern during medieval times, and it's absolutely hysterical. Um, think about the rock and roll version of Toss a Coin to the Witcher. It's a great song. Anywho, Medieval Times, that is the second project within this course. And the way that that one works is we're going to get out of Welcome to the Jungle here and start talking about Project 2, Medieval Times. Your job as we move forward in time through this journey is to take on for this project a genre, an era of painting. Medieval themes are not going away anytime soon within popular media. This time period has been reinterpreted and visited over and over again, hundreds and hundreds of times. It's useful for the second project because it gets you thinking about interior and exterior shots, linking your drawing style between two different frames of reference. And then it also gets you thinking about those early man-made objects they would find at Pottery Barn for that are way overpriced, and thinking about how to be able to populate a scene that feels lived in, like an active village during medieval times. You have some options for this project. The first thing I want to call out to you guys is please, within your exterior shots, do not try and paint an entire castle. I have I have trouble with painting castles. It's not my favorite thing to do in the entire world. It's very tricky. There is a genre in and of itself, and most likely, if you try and fill your entire shot with, you know, a dirt road, and then the next thing within your middle background is a giant castle with tons of spires and all these other little things. You can get lost in the details. The thing is going to be muddy. It's not going to look like the epic, matte painting fantasy Lord of the Rings Sauron Tower looking thing that you envision in your brain. It's very, very tricky. What's much easier is doing a medieval village, the Dutch style of building homes, where we've got the exposed beams on the outside, the plaster, the stacked stone walls to be able to build up these building shapes. And there is a lot of variation out there for that. By doing this project, you're going to learn some new techniques with your hands. You're going to learn about rendering different materials. And it's really going to help set you up for being able to tackle any type of cityscape environment. We're kind of starting at, humanity's beginnings, the village era of building when man was still very much connected to nature. So to go over the overview, you're going to be creating two different backgrounds, and they need to be. The idea is that one is an exterior shot, and the second one is going to be the interior shot. So your character is going to be walking through this medieval village, and then as they make their way to a door, they're going to open that door. The next shot, the camera is going to cut within the animated movie or TV show, and the next shot is going to be the character entering into that building space. You've got the option for what type of building it is that you want your character to be entering into. However, it is very important that while we are rendering this entire cityscape, that we keep in mind where the character's destination is. So hopefully within this first project, the last one, Welcome to the Jungle, you guys thought about how to move the viewer's eye effectively through a scene. The same techniques and tricks you're going to be using within this next project to direct the viewer's attention to the doorway or the entrance that you want them to go into. I'm going to show you guys some previous student works for this project that I feel like turned out really successful. And I hope that these get your imagination rolling for what all it is that you're able to create. Within the module overview, I've got some previous examples of these that I've done. I've got it broken down into exterior notes and tips, and then talking about the interior. The third example here for the exterior shot is the most previous one that I've done. You can see that I'm getting a little bit better at these as well as we continue on, and I've learned a lot of stuff along the way. But it's an exterior shot of a medieval town or village. So within this one, it counts. I do have castle elements within there. However, I am not rendering a full-scale castle, and these are more kind of castle-esque walls around building this ship structure. My second shot is the interior of a ship that is being built. The middle shot here is a medieval town square, and the idea behind it is that it is the Pied Piper's music school. So years ago, this Pied Piper came through and he saved the village from the mice, got all the mice out of there. And because he became famous for that within his village, it gave him a certain amount of fame. What are you going to do with the rest of your life after your great deed is done? And now he has started his own music school for teaching people how to become a flutist or to play the flute. And this is his personal home and building for where he teaches music at. There's also a certain level of kind of like Roswell UFO, like you go to Roswell, New Mexico, then they'll try to sell you like all the alien like hats and like, try our alien burrito and like themed things that are going on within the town. There is a castle off in the background, but you can see how tiny that castle is and how much I've really tried to avoid rendering it. And that one's got a lot of interesting stuff going on. The very first one here is the idea of the king's new wardrobe. And the building that the character is walking into is the seamstress or the dye shop within the town that is, world renowned. This is where the king gets all the clothing made at. And I'm trying my best within the town and within the direction. I think that this one is a little bit less successful, the first one. The second one is quite a bit better because of the way that I'm using the gold and framing the shots and using my lines to push the viewer's direction down towards the Pied Piper's music school. And then this third one here totally gets it. There is no question at all for where we're heading within this next shot is this ship that is being built. All right. So think about that. The character could be walking down or walking up the ramp here. From there, I've got some breakdowns of different exteriors for these buildings and things that are working, things that are interesting. So I highly recommend that you guys take a read through the module about different ways to break up these exterior shots. You don't have to make them all perfectly straight, giving the idea of weight and time to these spaces, thinking about different road structures, thinking about making your medieval village not sit on a perfectly flat ground can be really helpful also. And this one is just a beautifully fun building when it comes to using the plaster and some of the exposed beams. I think that they did a brilliant job with this in the Lord of the Rings Hobbit hole kind of door on there is just really beautifully done with some great details. Yeah, so I've included some other examples of building facades from this period. I do ask that you guys keep it during the medieval era. I think I've had in one time in the past, I had a student do sort of a Middle Eastern bazaar. So where they're selling like a bunch of shops and sort of like Aladdin when he is down there being the street urchin at the beginning of the film. And that was okay. It works, but think more like knights and dragons and suits of armor and that type of thing. The Bavarian style of medieval. You can also go feudal Japan if you want to on this project, but I find that to be a little more rare for what people decide. But there's all types of cool structures and building shapes that you can come up with for these and what they're going to be. And I'm going through and showing some examples of that. Here's the interiors. So for your interior shots, they need to have the same color space. They need to have the same level of detail, the same type of line work, so that they absolutely feel like they're coming from the same world and the same type of environment. It helps when I'm doing this, since this is a two-shot sequence, to develop both of these paintings at the exact same time. Meaning, if I'm going to use line work, then I have two different canvases open with all my reference images. And I go through and I do my sketches, and then I do my line work for one, then I do my line work for the other, then I do my flat colors, my middle tones for one, do it for the other one, do my shadow pass for one, do my shadow pass for the other one, so that these two shots are getting developed in tandem, and that really should help you out quite a bit. So here's the Pied Piper's interior. This is a much different color space. However, I got to scroll up quite a bit here. The colors are still pulled. So all the colors that you see on the interior are variations, darker tones, in some cases more saturation from the shots that are used within the exterior. The same thing goes for the interior of the ship as well. If this class was being run in person, there's a section of this speed painting part where we go through and we design within like an hour and a half, 2 hours, 5 different objects that are going to exist within this medieval scene. You are not required to do that for this online course. However, you will see that within each one of these, there is a variety of different objects and items that are filling the interior space. This is a good idea to have. We want these spaces to look and feel as if they are lived in, and that there is some narrative and story that we're telling with not only the exterior but the interior of the shot as well. So for example, if you decide to do a bar or a tavern, very popular theme, right? Especially if any of you guys are into Dungeons and Dragons. Um, you can tell a lot of a story for what kind of decorations you put on the inside of the bar or the tavern. So perhaps the bar owner once was an adventuring dragon slayer that after his adventures, maybe he was injured in the dungeon, came back with some riches and some gold and decide to open up his tavern, and his tavern is a homage to his adventuring days. Or maybe within this bar tavern, this is the medieval version of a sports bar. So the tavern owner is totally into jousting and the medieval sporting games, and we see all types of flyers and banners and various weapons or uniforms or helmets of stuff of champions over the years, and how we can tell that story with both the interior and the exterior of the shot. One thing that I see a lot of students trying to do is small, like potion shops or wizard shops. And sometimes this can work really well. Other times it looks a little bit like a strip mall's interior where it's just a store that you can tell it's going to go out of, you wonder like who actually shops within this place. um, and that's okay. It's fine, but we still have to figure out a way to be able to successfully navigate these interior spaces and give them a good rhythm and a good story that's being told. I love this one with the repairs that are going on the inside of, or on the inside of this thatch um, barn, and that this is sort of mid-construction project that's happening, and there's a really good time and space that's going on within this particular area. Okay, that brings us to dun 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 dungeons. I've had students try and do dungeons before. It is not always the most successful thing. A lot of students have trouble with figuring out the lighting source on an interior space like this. It can really give them a lot of trouble. And then the dungeons end up looking not well designed or decorated, to say the least. So dungeons, I don't recommend them. Yeah, doing a shop, a restaurant, something like that, can a basement, a cellar can work really well, but the dungeons maybe not the best choice for this particular project. Anyway, let me get in and let's see some previous students' examples. All right. Oh, we got a few of them. Oh, here we go. Let's talk about what's working, what's not working with some of these. I think that this one is a really, really beautiful example of using maybe a non-traditional color space. You can see that this one is rendered extremely loosely. It's very loose. However, the elements that they do have within this loosely rendered medieval background are all extremely well considered when it comes to the shadows from the clothes hanging that are showing up down on the ground, the shadows that are happening on the staircase here coming off of the bridge down to the stairs across the way are all extremely accurate. So even though this is a loose rendering, make no mistake, it is very, very intentional. The details are still right where they need to be, and this is a very deceptively smart illustration that's going on. They even have the shadow coming from the sign, coming off the boards. Like the more that you look at this, you can see all the different colors and gradients that they're creating over here in this wall, even though it's just a blank wall. There's a lot of advanced techniques that are hidden in an otherwise very simple looking illustration. So be wary if you're going to do something that is sketchy and loose, you still have to be smart about it, right? So as we look and bury down a little bit deeper, we can see the details that are going on with the wood and the doors. And even though it looks simple and easy on the eyes, there's a lot of smart little techniques that are going on that are hidden in this, like the texture that's going on within here, the various line work, how the gradient is happening on the inside of this spire. So be warned. All right. So here is, I think this is the sequence of shots. So this is the second shot as the character actually starts to enter in within the scene. Very nice job here when it comes to the lighting, finding a balance between an open door and how the light is actually penetrating through the room. If you decide to do this as sort of a 180 cut, the character enters, then we see the character from the other side as they enter into it. It's a good balance. One of the things a lot of students have trouble with within this project that I've seen in the past is how to be able to create shelves and how to fill those shelves with items and objects without breaking their hand off, right? This is a great example, excuse me, of how to be able to go through and create some funky items on the shelf without overly rendering them while still having a sense of light and a light source that's interacting with those objects. Look at all the objects that they've got over here on these shelves over on the side, but it's not overbearing and it looks really, really nice. This is a really overall smart interior. Another good thing that I want you guys to think about is how we can break up those wall spaces, right? This is nice that they've got the crown molding for the pillar down there at the bottom, the inset shelving unit going into the wall. Some of the wall details that are happening here with the beams. There's a lot of fun stuff that you can create this way. Our next exterior shot has a completely different rendering style, but yet it is still successful. So this one works because the perspective is there and the perspective is working accurately. There's also a really, really nice level of detail within these shots. So the color scheme is appealing. The light source, while being subtle, it's sort of like a gray sort of overcast day out. We don't have super dark shadows that are happening within the shot, but it is existing. And I think that overall it's a very pleasing image. The student went on to use this background for their effects animation within some of their classes later on, where they had someone on a boat that was fishing, and then the fish jumped up out of the water, and they did just a beautiful job with that. And I thought it turned out really nice within their final portfolio. This is that same shot sequence. So here's the exterior. Here's the interior shot for that one. We've got a little bit of problems going on with the perspective within this one. It feels like the right wall over here is very much on a hill and makes me feel a little bit dizzy after not having looked at it in quite some time. But overall, you know, they did an awful lot of work with the different shelving units and figure out a way to be able to do a bookcase without having to break their hand doing 1,000 books. Bookshelves, I've done a lot of them over the years, and they can really start to weigh on you, and they're not fun to do. Okay. This was a pretty cool one that needed some more work within the far background, but the rocks within the foreground on this wall are working nicely. So if you've never really done a stone wall before, this is a good starting point for how the line is weighted. And we're getting that secondary shadow happening within the wall. I'm not entirely sure why there's kind of a glowing light going on the door, But yeah, this just needed a little bit more time to be able to finish up those cobblestones as well. Those could have been done more successfully. A better light source within the scene. The color scheme is interesting, and you can tell with the barrel down here, they were on the right track, but just didn't quite make it all the way through to the end for this one. I think this might be the interior shot for that same project. This is a good example of a shot interior. I think that they did some smart stuff here with having the beams, wood beams up in the ceiling, not be completely straight, but giving them those waves. It's still a little bit empty within this area, a chair, a bench, something else over here on the right-hand side, just to be able to give it more interest. We have good directional lines that are certainly leading our eye to where we want to be. We can't exactly see where the character would actually enter into the shot. So opening the shot up further and having a doorway here would have helped it, but there are some nice developed items on the walls. And then you can see how detailed they got within some of these objects and items within the shot as well to be able to tell the story of an apothecary or an herbalist. Would have been cool to have more hanging plants and things on the ceilings, give it some beams on the wall to be able to counteract that strong stone wall that they created over here on the left-hand side. I like the scrolls within the foreground as a framing object. Yeah, just a little bit more that could have been done here. This is one of my favorite ones to show you guys. I love this one. So this one is a Dragon coffee or tea shop, and it shows you just how creative you can get with your fantasy themes for these spaces. So you are not limited to just doing a tavern. You can come up with something that we have never really seen before. I saw a restaurant the other day that was called Not Italian, and then their subheader or their catchphrase is but we know about pizza. And I thought that was so clever for a restaurant name. Anywho, so this is a really, really playful, great, well-designed exterior for the building. It's totally the focus within the shot. Those rocks would hurt your feet so bad on the way into going into this coffee shop. You can see that they've got some other cool fantasy elements on the exterior. Ring the bell to get in, and they're just really having a good time. One thing that I'd recommend that you guys do for your exterior shots, please think about how you are with your plant life, connecting these straight lines of the exterior buildings to the ground. Can you break up those straight lines with some shrubbery? Can you do it with a pile of hay, with some barrels, with some pots, with whatever you can, so that we're not just getting hard straight lines going across the ground? I've said the same thing for the trees, to be able to connect your trees to the ground with the Welcome to the Jungle project. I hope you can use that for these exteriors as well. But this is a really well-researched, well-designed. This is pretty fun with the scales for the roof, right? Getting into the theme of it, and then going through and giving those scales just some alternative colors, flakes here and there is a really, really nice choice. Like the depth to be able, so it's not just one building, but we are doing a medieval village. It's up on a ridge, and they've squirreled away and hidden their medieval village down a little bit lower. All right, so wow, I guess this was another one. I don't think I have the exterior shot for this one, but this is a sort of the student's idea was this was going to be a mobile game shop center where your character, while you're playing on your phone, goes back in and then buys different items and potions that they might need to be able to go back in for the rogue light game. And I think that all the items are rendered exceptionally well. Are they evenly rendered? No, they absolutely are not. So this particular teapot here looks great. Love the reflections, love the metal within it. However, this is like rendered from a 2D, a totally different art style than what's going on with the teapot. So they're clashing against one another in some pretty big ways, but overall there's some really good creativity and really good forms there. I love this little idea of a goblin's hand holding the candle, and the candle's got he's a little ember spirit himself. Really nice rendering job on the stools, giving the cracks and the wear and tear along some of these edges so they're not just perfectly straight is a great insight. This is a medieval burger tavern. I thought that they did a nice job with this one, thinking through the tables. You got some good wall breakups, some good differing colors for the stone on the ground. That can be really helpful. They've got a ordering menu up at the top. They've even got their own little medieval chalkboard type of logo, which I thought was really nice. I'm not sure why they put a pizza here on the table. If it's a burger place, they could have kept the theme going a little bit further, but you know, it's cool. I like the little flags. These are a great thing to be able to use within your shots as well. Here is our first feudal medieval Japan piece that has a much more earthy, pulled back color scheme to it. As you can see, this is a completely different building style and structure. Be careful if you do decide to go the medieval Japanese route, because these structures, these shapes are you're going to be painting a lot of those. So making one of them flat first, and then going through and duplicating it, and then using the warp tool or the distort tool to be able to lay it in to where you need to is really going to help you out a lot within this project, so you don't have to paint 1,000 of those along the way. But yeah, that one's really, really pretty and nicely done. Here's another apothecary interior shop, potion shop. We've got the hanging vines, the other little hanging items. Love the spiral staircase on the left-hand side, the stained glass window that we're hinting at as the light starts to filter through into the space. Really cool color scheme. And yeah, they've gone all out with rendering each and every one of those little bottles within there. It looks filled up. It looks well stocked. So I think that, once you establish that amount of product within there, you got to keep it going. You got to fill up the. Uh-oh. There we go. All right, I'm back. Cool. So here we've got the same exterior shots. There's the interior for it. Here's the exterior shot. Again, we got some non-traditional rendering and color spaces going on here with the green on the yellow. This is one of my favorite color schemes in the entire world. This kind of olive green and tan. I think it looks really cool. So they're using that atmospheric perspective within this space. Look at all the colors that they're pulling into the ground here with the pinks and the yellows and those same colors from the spires in the background. Really, really nicely done. A little bit of messiness when it comes to the shadows underneath some of these sections, but that's a stylistic choice. Overall, I think that we've got some really good Dr. Seussian type forms, and then just an overall strong composition with the shopkeeper's stall that's directing the viewer's eye towards where we want them to look at to get us over to the apothecary. And it's just a really fun shot. This one was pretty cool as well. So we've got a big dragon skull up on the front. I like the use of the the flags. Pretty good sense of depth within the shot. I love how they use the mountains within the background to frame the viewer's eye and lead us down towards where we want to be looking at. Good job with the cart over here on the right-hand side and drawing the cart wheel to direct the viewer's attention. This building over here has some nice details. And then we've got some other ornament that's going on within this space. We've got some city signage. We've got another little stall set over here on the side. And then, yeah, the flags going over the bridge are a nice touch as well. Overall, maybe a little bit more that they could have done with these tree shapes. Those aren't that successful. But yeah, the lighting's working good too. And we get it. The lighting is consistent throughout it. Here's the interior of that shot. So I guess within our Dragon Petting Zoo, Dragon Petting Store, Pet Store, we've got several different types of dragons that you could purchase. We've got dragon muzzles. This one's really, really fun. Over here on the right hand side, I think that's from How to Train Your Dragon. We've got some various dragon eggs, and it's just a really, really fun exploration of the theme for this thing. Ooh, this one was cool. So this would obviously be an effects animation. I think this was like a rune shop that's imbuing runes into different pieces of ammunition and different like weapons and stuff for like an RPG game. So here's the exterior shot. Really, really beautiful job with the sort of London fog of war over here back in the distance for the rest of the city buildings. Good job creating the hill here as it starts to drop off. The wall over on the right-hand side, very well done. We've got lots of nice detail and piping that makes the wall look like it's actually sticking out. There's uneven surfaces, and even as we get to this level, this is a very clean and refined painting over there on the right-hand side. Yeah, and then here's what the interior shot looks like on that one. And it looks like this. Yes, there's the interior of that space. Then you can see they're kind of chipping off pieces from this big old crystal that's glowing and letting off magic, and then imbuing the rifles or the other weaponry with this little bit of magic. This is a really nice little touch right here as well. If you're going to do any kind of glowing stuff, it's a great reference image. I would do a screenshot of that if you guys are thinking about doing something like this. Really nice exterior building here. Love the wooden details on the outside. Good overall structure and thickness to the forms. It feels like something out of like a farm building game or a medieval town building game that you would do. Maybe a little bit more work can be done on the background here, but really great job with the grassy field that they've created with all the texture that they've built up. That's another little great screenshot space if you're looking for references. Good job with the shadow along the edge of the field. Probably a little bit more that they could have done just to be able to match up the style from the thick lines that are on the outside of the building that are oh so clean compared in the fence compared to maybe the road and some of the other structures. But, overall, I think this is a really clean, polished, finished exterior. Notice the difference in the lighting as well, how they've got one side that's really bright, but it still has shadow going on all these exterior pieces. That's working accurately. That same shadow is carried on over here, but it gets a little bit darker within the nooks and crannies. And that's what's making that look so professional with the rendering structure and style and its shiny plastic new roof. All right, this one was really nice as well. Completely different color scheme, much dirtier town, but I love all the ground details with the little pieces of dirt, the stones that are sticking up, the little blades of grass that are starting to come through. Really nice job. So this is the Boar's Head Tavern with the hay bale in the back, adding the random pots, old wagon wheels that have broken. Again, really nicely framed. Love the cellar stall and the way that they're breaking up our line structure here and not and making things look worn and lived in by tearing the shape of the cloth that's overhanging there. And then, yeah, just really nice forms that they're creating with the wood beams there also. So this purple, red, and yellow color scheme is always really nice and really pretty. I don't think that they don't feel like the same painting. So I think this might be another student's interior, but this is a beautiful study of a lit fireplace. One of the things that I love the most about this is definitely going to be this cracked, uneven ground that they're creating with the different slabs of rock that are starting to go up. Other little rocks that they've tried to put in there to fix the ground is really nice. You can see that they're using a different color for the outline for the building material, and that is just really nicely done. We've got the reds and the yellows coming off of the fire, and then to be able to pair with that, we've got the purple, and then within it here, we've got really accurate shadows that are happening within the shelving unit back into the corner, and just take a moment to appreciate how we've got it darker over here. We're creating a nice gradient of texture that's moving through the wall. Got plenty of things to be able to this is getting my head up and running with these as well. Really like the brighter purple that's happening. Oops. That's a cool one. The brighter purple that's happening over here on the side of the stones, the way that they were handling the reflection. So if you guys decide to do a lit hearth, this is a great one to help get you started with that. Still could have filled this thing up with a couple more items, put some stuff on the shelving units that you have within there, make the space look a little bit lived in, a little bit more personal items. I don't think they quite finished the entire painting, so it looks like some of this up here needs to be rendered and figured out a little bit better and given the texture treatment, but they were certainly on the right track with this painting. Okay, so this one's really cool. We've got a totally different style of building where it is like the thinnest building you've ever seen before in your entire life. And it's a really cool perspective that the student used. Yeah, really cool perspective, really nice color scheme, good shadow, good time of day and atmosphere within the shot. And here's what the interior of that shot looks like. So it is the thinnest building you've ever seen before. And even though it's a super thin building, he's still gone through and thought through the space effectively, as well as the ceiling elements up here. That's something that you guys need to be aware of. So really cool solution. Here's the interior of that purple one that we saw a second ago. So this is the interior of the Boar's Head Tavern. You can see how well the tavern theme has been used throughout the space. Here's the interior for another one. This was shop. This is a big exterior for that shop. The student actually did go on to animate this one. This one I thought was really neat. So again, it's very loosely done. Could have had a little bit more of that medieval theme going on with it, but there's some really inventive shapes here for what's going on with the hay or the grass roof within the shot. And then there's the interior for that one. So again, another apothecary, really exaggerated and stretched out. Good sense of being lived in, dirty, got some stains on stuff, got the roots growing up through it. Really inventive way to be able to handle the beakers and the objects on the shelves too. I thought that was really nice. And that's going to do it for our examples for this particular project. From past students and what it is they've been able to accomplish. So I hope that gives you guys some ideas. I think we got a big dragon egg hanging out in the back over there, like a Yoshi egg. That's pretty fun. But I hope that that gives you guys some good juice for how you want to approach this yourselves. Again, before I stop this recording, I recommend that you do not do the exterior of a castle, like a full castle view, with like if you think of it as like a knight, up on a hill coming back overlooking the town and coming into his castle or coming back to the castle. They're not fun to render. Rendering the exterior of castles is not the best. If you really got to do a castle, this is an exterior shot and an interior shot. Be a little smarter about how you do it. You can do, the castle entrance like right at the drawbridge, and that can be pretty fun doing like a city gate. And then you could also, or if the interior of the castle walls is where the character already is, and then they're about to step down into the dungeon. There's other options for things that you can create for this medieval shot. I always like to try and do like a medieval village, something like this, as much as I can, because I think this is where the most examples come from for you guys, for me to be able to help you out. And yeah, kind of working through a cityscape during this time and period. I think there's a lot of value to it. And yeah, I hope that's helpful. If you think up anything, just let me know.